Good evening, everyone. This is Matt back with you with Crypto Art Australia, and this is our fifth video now. We've recorded several videos. The previous episode we looked at a quick analysis of the markets with myself and Mitch introduced himself and what his role is in the crypto space and what him and I are going to be doing and working on together. So that was good perspective for you. Now, today we're just going to look at three things. The first one is a little bit of background on the fundamentals of Bitcoin. The second one is current price action and where I believe or see the options as moving in the next sort of 48, 72 hours. And then looking at some information where you can find us in the community, and we'll start with that. So looking at our Twitter, we have a Twitter page. It's Crypto Art Australia, or at Crypto Art Oz is our tag, user tag, and analysis of cryptocurrency markets by Matt and Mitch. Mitch is a PhD candidate researching crypto, and Matt is an educational leader. And ART, of course, stands for Analysis, Research, and Technicals. So we're going to be able to throw in some of my research and also some of Mitch's research in as an aspiring PhD candidate in the field, and also through my experience in teaching others in student high school education and adult education, and also my own research and background in cryptocurrency as an enthusiast and an investor, and also someone that understands the markets. So we work well together, and you'll be able to find our Twitter page with several tweets, be able to see some of our videos that are posted. If I go down, so we've just promoted our YouTube channel on Twitter. We're reposting some important sort of articles and analysis of the markets, and of course also doing some polls to get you involved. So if you're interested in that and you're on Twitter, feel free to add us and follow us at Crypto Art Oz or Crypto Art Australia, you can search for. And of course there's a link down here to our channel, and we click on that. That will take you to our YouTube, or our latest YouTube video or YouTube channel. So have a look at that. And our previous video was on the Ethereum pump and Bitcoin shorts. So please feel free to have a look at that. Definitely worth your time indeed. So now that we've got that out of the way, as I said, we're going to be focusing on some research and also analyses of different articles and different information that can give us more perspective on the markets, so that when we're investing or we're giving others advice, we do so in an informed manner. And it's really important that we understand that. Now, one book that I would refer you to, or we're going to provide a reading list over the course of these videos as well. And so we may even touch on some key points that are mentioned in these readings, and we'd like you to be able to discuss them and give us some feedback and comments in your opinion. And of course, the first book that I'll refer you to is the Bitcoin Standard, Sound Money in Digital Age, which is available on ProQuest if you have a login, and John Wiley Sons is the publisher, by Saifedean Ammous. And this is definitely worth a read to get some perspective and understanding of what Bitcoin is, where it came from, and certainly its sort of current stance in the Western world, and even the entire world itself. So looking at chapter 8 in particular, that's part of our reading list today. We can just zoom in on that one. And I might even just highlight a few things. So there's a really important chapter here on digital money, and in particular introduces Bitcoin as digital cash. To understand the significance of technology for digital cash, it is instructive to look at the world before Bitcoin was invented, with cash payments and intermediated payments which require a trusted third party. So I guess this is the purpose of Bitcoin and why we're looking into it, and why I believe personally, and Mitch also believes, that it's fundamental to our future, is that relying on a third party can be problematic in regards to security, and can also be problematic in terms of looking after your money and your finances. So essentially, after years of innovative trial and error by many programmers, and although relying on a wide range of technologies, Bitcoin was the first engineering solution that allowed for digital payments without having to rely on a trusted third party. But the first digital object that is verifiably scarce is Bitcoin, which is the first example of digital cash. So it's a very good chapter, and it goes on to say a few things. That Satoshi Nakamoto's motivation for Bitcoin was to create a purely peer-to-peer form of electronic cash that would not require trust in third parties for transactions and whose supply cannot be altered by any other party. That's certainly sort of the original intention. Nakamoto removed the need for a trusted third party on a foundation of very thorough and ironclad proof and verification. And of course, whenever a member of the network transfers a sum to another, all network members can verify the sender has a sufficient balance, and nodes compete to be the first to update the ledger with a new block of transactions every 10 minutes. So it's really involving initially the proof of work system, which verifies certain blocks in a blockchain. While these mathematical problems are unrelated to the Bitcoin transactions, they are indispensable to the operation of a system, as they force the verifying nodes to expend processing power, which would be wasted if they included fraudulent transactions. Of course, the process of verifying blocks, the process is what is referred to as mining. And why nodes that solve proof work are known as miners. And there is a block reward, of course, for the miners that are mining Bitcoin. So this is a really interesting chapter on digital cash, and in particular on Bitcoin. It goes through supply, value, transactions, and trends in value and transactions over the last 10 years or so. And of course, you can see here, in 2009, the total BTC supply was 1.6 million Bitcoin, and by 2010, that had increased by 5 times, and of course, the annual growth rate was 209%. And in 2017, we see that there are 16.775 total Bitcoin supply, and in the future, we can get up to around 20 Bitcoin supply by 2026. That's our projected total. So as you can see, this is really quite an interesting, and this is quite an interesting table as well. Figure 15 extrapolates the growth rate of the main global reserve currencies, broad money supply, and gold over the last 25 years, and increases the supply of Bitcoins by program growth rates. So really important to see here, the Bitcoin supply will increase by 27% in the coming 25 years, whereas the supply for gold will increase by 52%, Japanese yen by 64, and the Swiss franc by 169, and of course the pound by 429%. So you can see here the projected growth in the next 25 years. This exposition can help us appreciate the salability of Bitcoin and how it fulfills the functions of money. With its supply growth rate dropping below that of gold, Bitcoin has the supply restrictions that could make it have considerable demand as a store of value. In other words, it can have a salability across time. So I think it's really important, this kind of figure, because it gives you an understanding of the significance in comparison to global currencies and the impact that it could have or as a store of value in the future. So I definitely recommend you give this chapter a read, and in particular look at those few key points that I brought up. Feel free to read the entire book, but this particular chapter will give you a lot of information on the fundamentals of Bitcoin and what it was intentionally used and created for way back over a decade ago. So now that we've had a look at some fundamentals, and we'll do that from time to time, we'll create a reading list, and I'll leave the links and the sources that we've used in the description of the video, and look forward to more readings in the future related to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that can give you some more information on the cryptocurrency space in general and its purpose and fundamentals. So the Bitcoin Standard, Sound Money in the Digital Age by Saifedean Ammous. Okay, which was, by the way, written in March or published in March of 2018. Now we move on to some analyses of the current markets, and we're just going to take a short break and we'll come back very soon. Okay, welcome back, guys. That was a bit of a break between recording. Apologies for that. But now that we're back, let's take a look at the analysis that we're going to conduct on Bitcoin. And essentially, I've just posted here a little bit of a short analysis, and I mentioned I was going to talk about it on YouTube. So let's dive straight into it. And we're going to go zoom in here so that we can see the charts completely. And essentially here we're on Coinbase on the 1-day chart. Now, there's a few things to take note of. Currently we're in a downtrend, as we're aware. In the previous video, we were talking about there was some movement here to the downside, or to the upside, I should say, and we were seeing a little bit of downside momentum. And since that video has taken place, we've seen it correct even further. So we're right at the moment at $3,617.01 on Coinbase chart. And that's sort of the level we're looking at the moment. Now, quite obviously, there's many resistance levels, including 5,000, 4,800, 4,700, 4,100, 3,500, etc., etc. Lots of resistance points, as Mitch mentioned on the previous video. What's really important to note now is we're forming, as it seems, an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, this inverse head and shoulders pattern is characterized by the left shoulder, which is a descending movement to a specific price point. We then see a retracement or a correction, which forms the head, as we then move lower, and then we bounce back up to form the right shoulder. Now, typically, a inverse head and shoulders pattern would break to the upside following completion of the right shoulder as we break the neckline. Now you can probably see here that the neckline is slanted, and so generally that isn't necessarily a good sign. Typically we'd like to see a touch on the top of a similar price point, but here we can see that the pattern is slanted and is sort of slanting downwards. And so sometimes that doesn't quite necessarily matter. If you have momentum, you can still move to the upside, but with a slanted inverse head and shoulders, sometimes that can just sort of pour out and fall over. And so what I've mentioned on Twitter are one of three scenarios. If you have seen my tweet or our tweet. Basic BTC analysis coming up on YouTube, or we're here. 3 potential options in no order. Inverse head and shoulders pattern moving to the upside, 4,100 to 5,000 targets. Option 2, slanted pattern falls to double bottom, which of course is an option around that 3,100 level, or a bounce around in the range and invalidate the pattern. So if we go back to the charts, this is very important because a double bottom here could go either way. We could just fall over again, or we could bounce off of that double bottom, the 200 a week moving average. Now, another option here is that, so we mentioned that inverse head and shoulders generally breaks to the upside in a bullish pattern. We mentioned that option number 2, that we can just sort of pour out here and fall over, or in this range that we've been establishing, bounce around for several weeks to come with high volatility. Now, the most likely option for me, it's looking pretty bearish. So I'd say that it could move lower and invalidate the pattern. And so if we move lower to around 3,100, we may just stay in that range for a while to come. That's probably the most likely option. The second most likely option would be because we have a little bit of divergence in the charts, with the price moving, we've established lower highs, firstly here at 4,400 and then at 4,200. We've established these lower highs, which on the charts you can see the RSI is establishing a higher high and also a higher low. So there's a bit of divergence. That I would say that that's the second most likely option, that we break to the upside. We may get strong resistance around 45, 47, 4,800. However, it doesn't mean that we're out of the woods. We could still get a big sell-off. So I think the most likely option is that the pattern falls over. However, you don't know what news or catalysts can come out which may change that scenario. There are a multitude of different sort of options that could lead to different circumstances and could lead to different price points. So we just have to wait and see how the chart evolves. But as you can see here, upside, downside, or bouncing in the range would be the 3 most likely options, and they're probably the 3 only options. So it's really important, we mentioned earlier, as looking into the Bitcoin standard Sound Money in the Digital Age, which is part of our reading list, and please check it out, and we'll give you the link and the source for the author's work. It's really important that not only do we do the research and do our own analysis of Bitcoin and understand the fundamentals, it's also important to understand the charts. And that's sort of what we're trying to achieve here by looking at both ends of the spectrum and also doing our own analysis of what's out there in the media. We'll include this link and the description here. Looking to 2019, what will bring about the next crypto bull run? 2018 was a nightmare. Well, I'd actually disagree with that. It's a much needed correction after a massive run up in 2017. So let's move on quickly from that. Liquidity, demand, and volume, I would agree with that. With the launch of Bakkt, Bitcoin Futures Exchange could assist with the demand, liquidity, and volume of Bitcoin. Absolutely, it is going to drive big institutions and investors into the market, and that's going to pick up liquidity and volume, absolutely. Now, if we just continue on here, genuine use cases. Now, this is what I wanted to get into. We talked a little bit about the fundamentals and the perspective of Bitcoin and understanding Bitcoin and doing our own research. But use cases are very important here. We saw announcements last week, like news about a partnership between a hardware wallet manufacturer Ledger and payment startup Crypto.com are a preview of what's to come. This sector requires more services that allow cryptocurrency holders to transact in crypto without having to first spend fiat or exit crypto to make fiat payments. I agree with that. At the moment, it's sort of early days with actually using this form of digital currency to transact, but we can see, even as an example with Ripple, XRapid, we're seeing that now spread among all the institutions and banking sector. And pretty shortly, we're going to start seeing that XRP being distributed among all those circles. Now, it's just a matter of time before we get other cryptocurrency coins actually transacted, for example, Bitcoin. And the partnership between Ledger and Crypto.com is certainly going to drive that use case. Stable coins to the rescue. There's been talk a little bit about stable coins because of the shambles with the ICO market and the crackdown that the SEC has had on the ICO market. So that's another thing to take into account. And it says down the bottom here, trading-wise, investors will need to stay abreast of new developments and exploit the little opportunities in order to average a respectable profit. I certainly agree. I feel that with regulation coming into the space, we are going to see less volatility, and the less volatility means scarcity in terms of opportunities to short and long the market and the amount of profit that you make. But it is all about your strategy. So if you have a good strategy, you're still going to make money, but certainly, and I'm not a financial advisor, do your own research, please. But certainly, the regulation is going to tamper some of that down. But it remains to be seen how much so. So that's something interesting to look forward to in 2019. And this is a good article that you can read. And it is on bitcoinist.com, and I'll include the link and the source on the video. Okay, so I think that's about it for now, and we'll leave it at that. But just a reminder, please check out our Twitter channel, Crypto Art Australia at Crypto Art Oz, for more information and tweets, particularly regarding our YouTube videos. And I've posted a little summary here of what we've talked about today. But I'll include a link to the Twitter account on the YouTube video, and I'll also put a link to the video on Twitter so you can switch between the two and have a look. And please follow us. And on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. And I'd like to hear particularly about two things: your opinion of the market at the moment and where it's going, in particular with Bitcoin. And the second thing is your comments regarding our research on Bitcoin, in particular what you think is coming in 2019 and whether you think regulation will be good for the space. Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks again, guys. Good night.